In this next step, what Dev Desktop wants from us is a public-private key pair so that data can be encrypted properly from the cloud down to our local site. You may have already generated a public-private key pair for some other purpose, like using GitHub, for example, but what we're going to do here is generate one custom, both in Mac and Windows, so you can see how it's done. This is one place where the experience on the two operating systems are a little bit different. I'm going to jump to the browser, and we're going to go to docs.acquia.com/cloud/ssh/enable/key Mac Unix. We're going to go through the Mac version first. We're going to go through this process on OS X first. And here you can see a step-by-step process on how to generate the SSH key. I'm going to talk us through this process to identify any points where you might have questions. So first of all, we're going to open up a shell or command line instance. We already have one open up here. Next, what we're going to do is run these two commands, and you can just copy and paste these right into the terminal window. So I'm going to paste it in, and I'm going to hit enter. You may need to hit enter in order to run the second line here. So you can see we have a list of items here already. If I jump back here, what these next steps tell us to do is if we've already generated a key, which will have the name ID_RSA, and let's jump back to the terminal window, and you can see here that we have an ID RSA and an ID RSA.pub. So the file exists already. And what these commands here are going to do is move those two files into a separate directory so we can generate a fresh key value pair. So this first line makes a directory called key backup, and in this next line we're moving, that's MV, any file that matches ID RSA, so that will be the ID RSA and the ID RSA.pub, and we'll move it into that directory we just created here. So what I'm going to do, because I already have a key backup folder, and you may already too if you've gone through a process like this before, you can see the folder right here called key backup. I even have a key backup too. I'm going to copy this command, jump back to the command line, paste it in, and I'm going to suffix it with a 3 here. And I'll hit enter, and then I'm going to jump back to the browser and copy the second line, the one where we move the two files over, and I'm going to again suffix this with 3 and hit enter. And now if we do the ls-l, you'll see that we have a key backup 3 folder, and our ID RSA files have disappeared because they're now inside of that folder. Okay, I'm going to jump back to the steps here, and in this next step it says generate a new public-private key pair using the keygen command. So we'll copy this and we'll paste it onto the command line here and hit enter. It's asking where we want to save it, and by default it's set to ID RSA, so we'll just hit enter. The passphrase will help secure this public key value pair. So even though you can skip this and just hit enter, it makes sense to enter that passphrase. You will need to know this passphrase later though, so make sure that you store the passphrase somewhere secure. Okay, so if we see something like this at the end, then our key has been generated. We can verify this by typing ls-l in order to list the files. And you can see we now have an ID RSA and an ID RSA.pub. I'm going to jump back to the steps. So we generated it, we entered our passphrase, and if we scroll down a little bit more, it gives us a command here in order to copy the public key to our clipboard. So we're going to run this command, and then finally here you can see it says we paste this in the Acquia UI when we add the public key to our Acquia user profile. So let's run this command first. I'm going to copy the command. I'll jump back to the terminal screen, paste it in, hit enter, and then I'll jump back to the browser and I'll click this link. And this gives us some specific instructions for how to add that public key to our profile on Acquia Cloud. The way we do it is by clicking our profile link, clicking View Profile, clicking Credentials, and then clicking Add SSH Key under this SSH Keys heading. We'll paste in our public key here. I just press Ctrl V, and let's give this a name. We could have multiple SSH keys. A lot of the time you'll just have one. But if you have this account for long enough, you may end up generating additional SSH keys for team members or other computers that you'll do development from. So you can give this any nickname you'd like. Mine is Chris's Acquia Cloud key from Mac, and I'll click Add Key. Okay, so we now have our key listed here under SSH keys. The last step is to add our private key to Acquia Dev Desktop. And if we jump back, you can see that we're at this point right here. Now, if we look at the terminal screen and we look at our list of files here, we have ID RSA. This is our private key. And then we have ID RSA.pub. And this is the public key. Just in case public-private key encryption is unfamiliar to you, the idea is that we can give our public key to anyone out there in the wild in order to encrypt files to send to us. But then the only way to decrypt those files is by having the private key. So this private key, it's important that we keep it local to our computer in order to ensure that no one can decrypt the files that are coming to us. Chances are you don't care a whole lot about security initially when you're beginning a web project, but as you move forward and get bigger projects, being aware of this level of security will become second nature to you. Okay, so back to Acquia Dev Desktop. What we're going to do is browse to the location where we have that ID_RSA. If you're not sure where it is, you can go back to the terminal screen and do pwd on the command line, and you can see that mine is in users/chrisshattuck/.ssh. So I'll click browse, and I'll navigate to users Chris Shattuck, and I'll scroll down to .ssh. And we have it right here. And here's our ID RSA file. So I'll select that and click open, and click OK. Here it's asking for the password that we included when we generated the key. So on the command line, it asked for the passphrase. This is the one we want to put in here. Once you're done, click OK. At the step where it says getting site code from Git, we get an alert that says this operation requires you to provide your full name and email. I'll click OK. And we're going to enter our name and email here. Now, these don't have to line up with any of the accounts or passphrases that we've generated so far. This is simply how our commits will be identified in our Git repository. So they can really be anything at this point. I'll click OK. So you can see now on the side that our site now resides under Dev Cloud Build a Module Test Cloud account here. Our local site is the same as it was before, but now we also have a cloud site. So let's click that and navigate to it. And you can see here we have our test article that we had locally, and now it's been pushed up to the dev site. At this point, this site is live, and anybody can navigate to this site and work with it. Pretty cool.